Good. So I just want to start with a little kind of introduction of how we got to here today to metal. And so we talked about in great movement in general. Yeah. And we said that the great movements are really kind of give us a structure, and help us to understand and grasp, how life starts and life on Earth is created. And so we have the great movements, as a kind of as a tool to understand that and to grasp that. And we started with Great Movement Earth last time, and we said that Great Movement Earth it gives us an identity, and it does that. The Shen kind of comes to life through the Jing. It makes contact with the Jing, and so with an individual Jing, and that gives the Shen or that consciousness a certain limitation already. So, and when these two, when the Shen express themselves through an individual Jing, then we have what we call life. And the first kind of great movement that we have with that is the Earth. So, and that gives us an identity through our Jing. It gives us a consciousness. And but as you can see, that's still on the vertical axis. So that's still on a very kind of it's a bit more dense than and a bit more manifested, but it's still not in contact with society. It's still not in contact with our environment. So it's almost like a little pre-stage of that. And so it'll be interesting to see why we then go to metal. Because you would expect that maybe it should be a yang movement out. But we go inside. It's a yin movement. It's metal. So there's a strong relationship to the inside. And so maybe, Jon, you can start. There was a question from last time, which maybe we'll start with. There was a question: what are the 10,000 things? If we talk about life and environment, what does that mean?
Well, it's a well-known expression, the 10,000 things or the 10,000 beings, and it is meant in the Suwen, but it's also in the Tao Te Ching. And I'll read the first part of the Tao Te Ching. This is a Liu Ming Tao Te Ching, and then I will say a few things about it. The Tao that can be conceptualized is not the pristine Tao, and Tao is not its true name. The pure ground of heaven and earth is nameless. It is heaven and earth that parent the 10,000. Observe the limitless mystery. Observe the limits produced by desire. Though these two seem different, they mirror each other. Their common thread is very obscure. It is darkness that is darker than darkness, called the gate of the inexhaustible potential. So this is a chapter you can talk about for a long time, but just to make it short, they start to say that heaven and earth both are nameless. So there is something which has no time. There's no thought. You can't speak about it. It is just there. If you give it a name, then it comes into the three-dimensional world with time and thought and consciousness and impressions and expectations, and that's a concept. And so what it says that the pure ground is of heaven and earth and nameless. It is heaven and earth that parent the 10,000. So the children of the nameless is the 10,000, is how you, from the undivided, is created the 10,000 things, which means there is opposition, there is yang and yin, there's front and back, there's heaven and earth, and so on. So it means that there is the undivided and the divided. And then it starts to talk about the darkness that is darker than dark. It's very obscure to understand the common thread of both. So they say that the divided and the undivided actually is the same. So within the undivided and divided, you can meet each other. That's possible also in the divided one. In us, you find something which is undivided, but it is mystery and it is darker than dark. It means you don't give it a name as well because it is not visible. It is the moment you give it a name, it's a concept and it's immediately within the realm of the 10,000. So the 10,000 is a symbol of what is divided, and that's our life here on earth. So it says there's one, there's two, there's three, and then there is the 10,000. So the 1, 2, 3 is the description of a circle. So the 1 is the center, the 2 is the radius, the 3 is the circumference. That is the still undivided realm, but this is already in concept, so that already is in understanding, is within our world, but to make it a symbol. And from there are the 10,000 beings or 10,000 things. So within the 10,000, there's always, how do you call it, interaction, communication, opposition, fight, defense, confluence, things like that.
So just coming back to the earth then. So you said in your book now that the earth contains the origin of the essence of life. Is that the origin? Is that the undivided? Is that the
origin is part of, well, to be honest, every part has that origin in it. We will see that today probably as well. Yeah, we will definitely meet that as well. But the idea is that there are 4 heavens and a central heaven, and that central heaven on the most solid ground becomes the earth, which guides and directs the 4 other directions in the 4 other phases, you could say. So in a sense, therefore, when we discuss the Great Movement Earth, there is a strong relationship with the Shen, because that is also the center of it is also related to the Shen. So the origin is very much related to the earth and the other way around. You can find it there. Yeah.
to the earth?
Yeah. But also on other levels, also we'll see in metal there's a strong connection also with the origin, but in another way. Yeah.
Okay. So you talk a lot about in that chapter about metal, you talk a lot about dynamic dualities, and you talk about metal, being the communication, the interaction between two things, and also the space. Can you go into that, and what's the relationship to metal, or how can we understand metal better in relationship to dynamic dualities?
Yes. Well, that's why it's good that we started with the 10,000 things or beings, is that to be able to grow, to be able to understand yourself, understand the world, is that there is always interaction between things. There's communication. And with metal itself has also this duality. Like the earth also has that part, but much more it's a meeting of yin and yang. But in metal, there is always the movement of Li, which is the beneficial force, as you maybe remember, is the beneficial force that it is able to discriminate what is good and what's bad for you. So you take the good and you keep the bad out. And that means that there is nourishment to the inside. And at the same moment, there is protection against the outside. But there's also Wei Qi in the metal. And Wei Qi is not only protective, but it is also being alert. If something happens like that, you look from instinct. That is also Wei Qi, that you awake and that you see the environment. So there's also that very young, awake energy. that you look outside without knowing, and at the same time you can defend yourself or make contact with each other. It's even possible, like we're sitting here together, and there were people I know for a long time we saw entering, and we know each other for a long time. So even being here in a Zoom meeting, we need the metal to make contact. There's also part of the heart Shen. The heart Shen reaches out and returns back to the source, which is the heart. And that movement of interaction is very much related to the metal. That reaching out, that couldn't be possible without the metal. So it means that the book is the subtitle is Dynamic Dualities. The first, I thought maybe that should be the first title, because it's so important in any treatment that when dualities are not dynamic but stable or stagnated, or it's not dynamic, it's impossible to give cure or to give understanding of each other. In my book, I give an example of that. When people are together and there is no interaction, but there's only defense or something like that, then there is chaos or stagnation. Then the relationship will not develop in a good way. So there's always need for empathy, sympathy, interaction, communication, and the same applies for blood and qi, yin and yang, above and below. So it's everything going up and up and up, and then you can start doing unlike qi treatment or guest hose law or whatever. That doesn't work if you don't balance that first. You need to establish a certain balance between the two, so that there's ability to cure. Yeah. So it is a precondition for cure that there is interconnectedness. And if that didn't happen, and there is no trick that you can say, use that point or use that point. There are certain points, and probably we'll talk about it, where there's meeting of yin and yang. And we will probably talk about these points later this afternoon. And if not, yeah?
Yeah, can I just, so you said that the earth, yeah, which you called identity, yeah, or it gives us a certain identity, is a meeting of yin and yang.
Yes, that's a meeting. If in Earth there's a meeting of yin and yang already.
Right. So, but then, like when we go to the metal, it's more like not an opposition, but there's two separate entities, and in between there's a field where that meeting of yin and yang, or two identities, or inside outside takes place.
Yeah.
And you said that the dynamic duality is dependent on metal, but is it not also dependent then on your identity or the earth? Is the earth?
Well, that's completely true. The identity is nothing without the environment.
Right.
Then it's just a consciousness, but you don't do anything with it. So you need a certain environment, and we are social beings. Don't forget, we need also people. Without people, we have a difficult time.
So that's a step from earth to metal.
Yes.
Yeah, that we
Yeah.
come
So
into contact and we're being stimulated to grow and stimulated to develop through contact with something other than ourselves.
Yes. And even in the beginning, when you are born, then you are part of your mother still. Just after you're born, you have no idea what's the difference between you and your mother. So you're still in that earth state, but very quickly, we as babies, we are a lot of metal, a lot of pole, because that we develop the interaction there. So when you see your own hand, you still don't know it is your own hand, but when you put it in your mouth, then there will be slowly an awareness that this is your own hand, and the other hand is from your mother, or the other bottle, or breast, or anything. So you start to understand the difference between yourself and the environment. And that's the beginning of the flow of the great movement metal. And that's also the beginning of the development of large intestine, for instance, or the lungs, or the liver. So there's a start of growth of metal. And liver in Stems and Branches is related also to the great movement metal. So that develops the metal quality. Yeah.
So there's like a yin metal, yeah, which has more to do with growth, uh, or an alignment to something inside and growth according to that, and the yang metal that has more to do with connection and with protection.
they are both yin and yang. They're both yin and yang. The yin part of the great movement metal is the beneficial force, that you go inside and have self-knowledge and there's understanding of the self. The yang aspect is that metal is also a mirror and you see yourself. And the outside is yin because you are receptive to the outside world. But at the same time, you're capable of keeping or trying to keep the outside world outside, because if it is offensive,
Mhm.
then we start to scream when we are babies, and later we start to fight, or you use chi to keep perverse chi outside. So there's both yin and yang, but the direction is different. But if there was no um, vulnerability or receptiveness or sensitivity within the metal, then there was only a very aggressive. And that happens. It happens in people that they're always aggressive, and people think always of liver as aggressive, but metal is killing. So if that vulnerability part or the receptive part or the yin part is not capable of having strength, then people get really angry, and there's a lot of hate and murder and so on because of that yang capacity. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So yeah, though we have kind of yin and yang as the kind of first expression of life, yeah, we need metal, yeah, for yin and yang to really come into being. Is that or
Yes,
to be
but it's
practical in any way?
that's true. That's true. Um,
Or can you give us like a practical example of
yeah, yeah,
how do you work with that? Yes,
yeah,
like you
yeah,
have a yin yang imbalance, let's say
yeah.
left right pulse, left
Well,
side.
let's first start with the conception. Yeah, with the conception, there is Shen, there's Earth, and there's Po, and there's Jing. But there's no development yet in the world. The environment is still it's your mother. When you are born, the first things that happen is that you start to breathe. That's the development of the Po in this world. There's immediately a interaction between the cosmic chi and the earth chi or the food chi. So the Da chi and the Ku chi come together, and then the kidney chi grasps the lung chi. So there is the development of Po. Po is within the breathing system. The breath is the house of Po. It's an expression of Po, the seven Po. And that is grasped by the Jing. So the Po and the Jing come together, and the Jing brings it the power to the force of the will to live. That's the expression. That moment there is the will to live. So that's important to understand. Yeah, that the power of metal is that it starts to connect with the outside world.
Right.
And something also during birth happens in the liver, but that's another story. But that's the first thing. Then changes in the heart. Instead of one space of the heart, we get four spaces of the heart in the center. And so that also is a change into this world, that we have the number 4 and 5 there. We have 5 lobes, that is also related to the number 5 is life on earth, transformation on earth. That all develops when you are born. Then that chi from the Po is grasped to the Jing, and so that helps the will of life. That's the beginning of connection to the outside world and the inside world. And so the first thing you should always look at when there are problems with the metal is what is happening in the earth, what's happened with the Shen, what happened with the Jing. Was it able to grasp the Qi? Is it still able to grasp the Qi? And then after that, you can look to the communication of outside and inside. All pathogenic factors enter through the metal. Of course, there is poisoning of food, but the whole the digestive system is actually outside world. Yeah, it comes through the layers of the intestines, that it goes to the blood. So there's possibility to get pathogenic factor through the skin, through the nose, through nearly everything goes through the great movement matter. So it has to be very strong itself to be able to discriminate. That's the first thing, into what's good and what's not good.
And
So,
that discrimination is dependent on the Shen and the earth
and Jing.
and Jing. But so
But
what would be the problem if the Jing can't grasp the Po?
yes, if the Jing can't grasp
Or why would it not be able to?
if the Jing is very weak or the Po is very weak, but usually it's the Jing which is very weak, then there is less willpower to live. So there is the Zi itself, which is one of the spiritual sources, which they always say it's will, but it is rooted. The symbol of Zi is the lower part is the heart, and there's a very straight line up in that symbol of the character of the Zi, which says, okay, this is the direction I want to go. This is the strong will to live. Without having these desires, that I think is very important to understand. That the desire, what we're talking about, what we spoke about in the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, is that's part of our, let's say, three-dimensional world where there is opposition of yin and yang and what's in between. So that's the third one. But that desire takes you away from the original strength, your authentic chi. Yeah. So to understand when you say what happens when the kidney chi can't grasp the lung chi or can't grasp the Po, it means that the power to be able to live according to automatic movement is not so easy for you. Yeah. So
Okay.
then you can see a lot of problems in metal. You can see a lot of things in, let's say, eczema, digestive problems, large intestine problems, bladder problems, kidney problems. They're all there. But the first thing you should do is check the Jing. That's the first thing you do. And
Mhm.
if the Jing is not able to grasp it, then you still can strengthen it. And especially when children are young, you can still do that. And then you will see that the metal will be nourished easier. And so when it did grasp the Po, then the metal is able to communicate. And the thing you should look at is, do people nourish themselves in a proper way? Are they able to discriminate what's right and wrong for them? And can they protect themselves? Protection is Wei Qi. Wei Qi is produced in the kidney yang mostly. It's stored in the liver. It is produced in the area of the stomach and the spleen, stored in the liver. And it is produced in the lungs, in the skin. And that's the first reaction to the outside world, is also Wei Qi. So you have three levels of Wei Qi. Besides that, there is a defensive mechanism of Taiyang, the outer layer, lung and bladder. And there is a defensive mechanism of pericard, which protects the heart. So when there is something on in let's say the metal is very weak, you should look at where is the compensation mechanism. Is it in the pericard, which becomes tight or strong, or is it in Taiyang, which becomes more superficial and more flood, more volume, or is it somewhere else? So where do we find the compensation? And then you often find where the weakness is.
Right.
So it is too easy to say the metal should always be like that. It is a combination of, in protection, it's a combination of forces.
Okay. Okay. And you talk about, I don't know if that only relates to children, but you say that, and that makes sense, yeah, that the skin, yeah, is a boundary, yeah, and that physical touch kind of nourishes the Jing. So if somebody has like a Jing deficiency, or if you want to build the Jing, then physical touch is important. So it's is that for adults as well as children, or
It is for everyone. Usually children have stronger Jing than adults or old age people. Not always, but usually the Jing in children is stronger. The Jing and Po are really together. Yeah, as I said, the kidney energy grasps the lung qi, and they're both physical. The Jing is the most dense energy we know. The Po, and there has a lot to do, and the great movement metal has a lot to do with the structure, with the physical appearance of people, the way people show themselves into the world. If it's
so it gives structure and limitation to the Jing, so it can unfold, or
it gives structure to the Jing, but also to other things. But if people are very flaccid, there's no how do you say that? If they're not stiff, they're not. Everything is moving. That often is a not so much a problem in the Jing, but it's more a problem in the Po. The Jing is in the teeth and in the bones. That's the strength of the bones and the strength of the teeth, the whiteness of it also. That's more the Jing. The way people move and how they maybe it's a bit complicated what I say now, but I still make that step. The Po is very much related to emotions, and we will talk about that later. And the great movement metal is related to emotions because emotions are motions. And as I said, you have yin and yang, and the metal, the great movement metal, directs and governs the movement between the two. And that is our emotional system, that we are able to feel something and to express that to others, or to receive it and to do something with it. So emotions are there. There is no emotion where the Po is not involved. Yeah,
but what is being moved when you say it's movement?
between the two
Aspect
poles.
of ours. Yeah, what us when you say emotions, no, then it's a movement within ourselves. But what within ourselves is being moved?
The 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 blood
Is
and
that
chi.
like the vertical axis that is being moved,
No,
or
not so much. That is possible, but it's usually the blood and chi which is moved and how we express it to others. So if the metal is weak, we are not able to express it. Then we just retract, we retreat. If the metal is very strong, then we immediately show that to others. We direct it to others. So it's a very strong energy. So all emotions, even shame, guilt, aggression, worry, whatever you can think of, which you that is an emotion because you can feel it in the body. The emotions and body are connected to each other. Every emotion is connected to the body, not so much to the Jing immediately, but to the body. And the body is also related to, or not related, is the Po is part of the physical body. The flesh itself, you could say, is earth, but the body, the turgor, the force, the power of it, that is related to the great movement metal. And so when I talk, I move my hands, for instance, my eyes change, my head moves. That's all part of the great movement metal. And so when I get excited, for instance, then my body is different than when I am very tired and I can't anymore. Then I go inside. That's also part of the great movement metal. So it moves the body, it moves the chi and the blood on a physical level, mostly. Uh, and it interacts with others because others are receptive to it. So if I, for instance, I try to show you, if I look at you like this, something happens to you. And then when I look like this, something happens to you too. There is a different radiance. That's part of the Shen, but that movement also, and the physical movement of it, is the great movement metal.
Mhm.
And so the movement is within, and I can radiate or vibrate or express it to the outside, and you can receive it or protect yourself against it. That's all great movement metal.
Okay. You talked a lot about the Po now, and you said that great movement and the Shen are similar concepts, you know, that they kind of help us to understand, yeah, that that particular aspect or that emanation, yeah, from the oneness. Can you explain to us like your view of the Po? Yeah, because we have seven Po, and you said, yeah, that Po is yeah, everything. But what's the differentiation in Po? Maybe it'll help us to understand metal better. You know, and
Yes. Yeah. Um, First of all, the Po is one of the Shen. You have 5 Shen. You have the Yuan Shen, which is the original Shen. And then when you are born, you have the Wu Shen. That's the 5 Shen. The Po is one of these. So it's the Yin part of the Shen, is the Po on a horizontal plane. It's you have fire, water, earth in the center, and you have the Hun and the Po. And the Po are related to the Jing, the Hun to the Shen. So it's a yin part, it's a strong part, and it is often seen as instincts and nasty energies that makes life difficult. And that is also true, but in my perspective, it's different because you can't do without the pole. They are very strong uh, to create emotions, to have instincts, but also capacities. So when you understand the emotional part of it, then you can use these poles in a very different way. And then it gives you ability to do things not from emotions, um, or actually more related to the Shen, more related to the Hun. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. The Po are 7 qualities that stay with the earth. So when you die, they stay here. These energies are from the earth. It's heaven and earth coming together. That gives the 10,000 beings. And within the 10,000 beings, the Hun and Shen go back, and the Po and the Jing stay here. Now there are 7 Po. Shall we discuss these 7 Po now?
so let me just summarize that. So you said we have the Shen, like the related to the oneness, yeah, and once we are, you said born, yes. So once we are born, we have a limitation of that, and then we have 5 Shen. Yeah, so one is the Shen, Yi, Tzu, and then Hun and Po.
Yes.
Yeah, and so and the Po have a lot to do with our emotions and our the ability to develop um, inside or develop our personality, develop our individuality through the Po and through the interaction with the outside world. And yeah, maybe you can. Do you have anything to go further into that?
There are maybe other questions we need to answer now, or I'm not sure.
I don't know. Maybe it's a good time to kind of before we go
Yeah.
into the Po in detail. Are there any questions that people have?
There's 2 questions I see here. Or one
Well,
question.
actually, there's one question about symptoms,
Yeah.
but I think maybe that can come back later on if we talk about the features in skin and face and all that, and you already talked a bit about it, or maybe you want to
Yeah, well,
answer it now.
that maybe one thing I could say about is that when the great movement metal is affected, then usually you don't find only in the liver, sorry, in the large intestine and the lungs, maybe in the large intestine even more, like disarrangement of pulses and so on. But you find it in every metal detail usually, or in many more levels, like the skin can be dry, but also bladder and kidney. When you didn't study stems and branches, find it maybe difficult, but the deep energy of bladder and kidney is also metal. So you find also changes in the pulses of the bladder and or the kidney. But also there's a lack of fluid. So you nearly always find on different levels, you find expressions of a malfunction of the great movement metal. And then you know it's the great movement metal. Yeah.
So just to, before we go into the Po, because you said, yeah, the origins of the essence of life, yeah. So the blueprint of the self is in the earth, yeah, and every cell of the body, yeah. And then once we're born, we have different aspects that influence that blueprint. You know, we have first of all the stems and branches, then we have our upbringing, we have friends, we have all of these affect that.
Yes.
And that happens through the great movement metal. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And the
So
blueprint,
also purification, or also to find our way back towards that blueprint is through the metal, or
through the metal with the Hun. It's the Po and the Hun together. This is the horizontal plane. So that's the plane where we meet. This is your vertical axis. This is your own relationship to heaven and earth. And the horizontal plane of great movement metal and great movement wood, but also of Po and Hun, that level is the level of community, of social life. And within that, there are the possibilities to come back to that blueprint. And that's a good name for it, is that within the seven Po, there is the blueprint for self-knowledge, but also when you are distracted, you go more and more into physical uneasiness. And then they become nasty beings that make your life difficult. But there's also the mystery of something very pure and nice. Let's see if we can find a way in there.
Mhm.
Let me see. If we have a look here. Okay.
Yeah.
So so what you see here is the name of the Po, where it is located midway between Governor 20 and CV1. That's around the area of CV12, or some people call it the yellow chamber. It's related to Earth. And then you see here all these emotions that can come up with it. This is usually what people learn and what they know, even the name of it and the place, not only Earth and worry and so on. Now, the most important thing is actually on the lower part here, that this pose sustains life in us. So we don't have this. So this is from the Earth. How you started, Hun, with that we have the great movement Earth. So there is a center where Yin and Yang meet.
Yeah.
And from there, from CV12, which is in the Earth, it is also a meeting point of Yin and Yang. And this is where the lung chi starts. From CV12, the energy goes down to the intestines through the diaphragm, goes to the intestines, goes back, and also the stomach is affected. Then it goes up to CV22. And CV22 is also a point of meeting of Yin and Yang. And then it goes to lung 1. And then it goes to the channel. So you see already here, there's a movement downwards and there's a movement upwards. And the same happens with this pole, because the Earth is there. And then what you see, it sustains life, the area CV3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a very, and I don't want to go too quick, because this is a very essential thing of the first pole. The CV3 area, that the name of the point is the same name as the North Pole Star. And so the North Pole Star in Chinese philosophy is the house of the heavenly emperor. There's the chariot, and when you look to the big ladle, there's like a chariot. So the North Pole Star comes from that chariot. It directs into that chariot. And so the North Pole Star is the center of the universe. It's the heavenly emperor. We have that inside us, with CV3. That is the unity. That energy is our connection to heaven. It is the mood point of the bladder has that same quality in it, but that's another story. Then CV4, that's of course mood point of small intestine, but it's also called the yuan point, is where the yuan qi is, you can affect the yuan qi. And yuan qi is something which is very peculiar because it is connected to your past, to all the beings and genes and whatever was before you. But CV4 at the same time is postnatal qi. So CV4 is the past and the future. It's the prenatal and the postnatal. So from the CV3 area, it goes to CV4, and there you have this yin and yang, past and future. This is the beginning of separation of energy from the heavenly emperor inside of you, and then it manifests into what you have what is given to you in the past and what you can do with that in the future. Then it goes to CV5. CV5 is a point where the energy accumulates. That's the whole level of CV5. Also the kidney 14 point and what is it, stomach 27. That level is accumulation of energy. So it's building up, and it is like a mountain coming there. And it means that the energy which is there, and that's important to understand, that's the area where the deep function of the Sanjiao picks up the energy between the kidneys and spreads it all over the body. So CV5 is also a mood point of the Sanjiao. So first you have this unity, past and future, that's this life, and then it builds up into the Sanjiao where the Sanjiao will bring it through the Renmai to all the other channels. Then it goes to the area of CV6, and CV6 is the sea of Qi, is how it strengthens the Qi all over the body. So this CV12, which is a very important point inside yourself, sustains life from that area. And what you see here, because it sounds very maybe spiritual, but it expresses itself in the body. It's a physical expression. So it is the Po, which is related to the Jing, which uses these qualities to strengthen your body. Yeah, your body becomes within a spiritual realm. So a lot of people say that the spirit becomes physical, but I think the body is taken into a physical realm because that is a physical realm, what I told, the spiritual realm, but the body is given the space there through the seven Po, a physical impression you give to people that is related to this Po. And at the same time, when this is stagnated, for instance, if this doesn't work, then there is no movement of life. There is no movement between yin and yang. There is no qi to give to the Sanjiao to spread it to the channels. And this leads usually to worry, regret, remorse, obsessiveness, and all these things related to the earth. It's the background of all these things. So when you see people where there is a stagnant energy, we usually think of earth only, but it's often this pole which is not working well. And you should feel the area of CV12 and give you will nearly always find stagnation there. And instead of giving acupuncture, you should start with touch. Just massage and make it calm and see if the area of CV3, 4, 5, 6 becomes also calm and starts to become warm and starts to move. So even you can do a moxa box there if you want to, when CV12 is calming down and is relaxing, then that helps the movement of this Po, and it strengthens immediately the muscles. So when you do that, after that, you will immediately feel that you feel stronger. Yeah.
Okay. so we start with the first PO, and that's related to the earth concept, yeah, in the kind of middle of the body. And you say it has this mysterious beginning in the unity of life, yeah, CV3. And then there's, again, like we discussed with earth, yeah, there's a limitation of that, and then it makes context to the contact with a horizontal axis, yeah, and then it starts to unfold itself through the body and makes contact with the environment.
Exactly. That's the first thing what happens with when you are born and
Right.
the breath starts. That's also when the lung channel starts. That means that from CV12, the energy goes to the intestines and goes up to CV22 and goes to the lungs. That movement is how do you call it? Nourished, is helped with this PO, which also goes down to the area of CV3 towards 6. Where the Sanjiao, which is already there, is able to pick up the energy from that area and bring it from the front to all the channels. And something happens similar happening from Governor 4, but that's another story. But this is from a PO perspective. It means that when people having all these problems with worry, regret, etc., you should start working with this PO first to allow them to make contact with the origin of the symptoms of worry, the symptoms of stagnation. And on a Hun aspect, that gives trust and confidence, and it helps people to understand themselves.
Okay. You talked about chi and blood and the metal and the Po before. And now, so I know that CV4, for instance, has a strong relationship to blood. Yeah. And then CV6, you mentioned chi. And in between, there's this accumulation point. Can you, it sounds like a simple question, but what is your understanding of chi and blood in that way? So we are on the same page, you know? So because we all have different concepts of that, but they might be different to yours.
I don't think so. I think we have the same idea about that, but they are similar. They're two sides of one medal or coin, and one is more physical and one is less physical. The blood is definitely related. It's the yin aspect is related to the body. So I'm not surprised that from that North Pole star you first get the blood, which is the more physical part. But as you know, the blood also contains all the emotions. It first goes to the blood. It's sometimes it disturbs the blood, but the blood is very physical and it's kind of energy. And that's why, for instance, people, when there is emotional problems, they start to treat lower meridians because they have an effect on the blood. And then it accumulates, which makes it more physical. And from that accumulation, there is more the subtle part of chi which spreads through the body. So on this level of development from the North Pole star up, I can see that is physicality which helps the chi to build up and to nourish the body.
And if you can put the slide back on, Ion, because then you make that, and that's you also mentioned it before. No, so first of all, like you talk about worry and regret and remorse and self-doubt. Self-doubt, I understand, but worry about what and regret about what? That is related to that hope.
That's a really good question. These are words which partly describe what's going on. When you look to this picture here, you see understanding of consciousness and awareness. When you're in contact with your emotions, when you're in contact with what happens inside you, usually what we do, if we feel uncomfortable, we want to get rid of it. You go to a doctor, as a baby, you start to scream, I'm uncomfortable, and you start screaming or crying. And we teach our children also to do something about it. We soothe them, we touch them, and everything is okay again. And that's what we should do when we're young. But we keep on doing that when we grow older. Then you keep on asking other people to help us. And we can't do it ourselves. So we want to get rid of it. So it means that you feel worried or you feel obsessive that you still feel this, or you feel lots of feelings that you caged into what's going on. You were not able to understand what's going on. The moment you start to understand that what you feel is part of yourself, and you accept that feeling and go into it, that not only you feel the emotion, but you are that emotion. It's not that, oh, today I'm so angry. No, you are angry. Your blood is angry. Your chi is angry. Your body is angry. And so when you really are with that anger, it changes, it's gone. And you don't worry anymore, or you don't angry anymore, etc. And that's what's happening here. So when you worry and you go in circles, you have, in English you always say pensiveness. So this in circles of reasoning, etc., is a survival technique to not being in contact with an emotional part which is under it. And that is that you understand why you feel like that. Understanding of the consciousness, or aware of something. So for instance, you can't sleep because tomorrow you have something difficult, exam, or you meet someone, or maybe you will not meet someone, whatever, you're worrying about it, and that happens the whole night. And you want to get rid of it, so you take a pill because you want to sleep, or anything. But it comes from a certain insecurity, or some physical uneasiness, or that try to be aware what's under the worrying.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that is what sustained you, what helped you. And you didn't get that help. Your mother helped you in the past, your father helped you in the past. So you're not able to soothe yourself. You're not able to say, okay, this is part of life. This is who I am. And so this CV3 point, that is a point where you make contact with the heavenly part inside yourself, why you are here. This is part of my path.
Okay.
And so on. Yeah.
So basically what you're saying, it teaches us to look inside first.
Yes.
Look inside our own identity, our own
Yes.
being.
Not identity only, because identity is always in contact with the others, but
Right.
it makes contact with something authentic inside yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then you make that step to the Hun immediately. And so what does that have to do with the Hun and trust?
The Hun, there are three Hun. There's a Hun which is more physical, which is more related to pleasures and sexual desires. There's a Hun which is more social, and so it's like the Po, in contact with the world. And there's a Hun which is more spiritual, more related to that part of the development. And especially the first two Hun are involved in this, is that the moment you have trust in your path, okay, this is what it is. This is, even if the circumstances are very difficult, that's part of your part here. Although people can make it you very difficult, still you are there. You can't change the world. You can only change something inside yourself, or ways to find to adapt to it. And the moment you come in touch with your own awareness of it, your own ask for help of your mother or father, which you have to do it yourself now. There's nobody to take care of yourself, which in certain circumstances is horrible. This can be very horrible and very difficult, but still that's the only thing you can do. And that goes through trust, not so much trust in others. That's not what I meant. That's necessary for safety, but that you are on the place where you need to be.
So trust in your path of life. And
Exactly.
right.
Even if it's difficult, it doesn't make your life less difficult sometimes, but it helps you to understand this part of the Po. That's the very first Po which makes contact with the essence of life in yourself.
And
Why?
immediately it kind of awakens the Hun when you do that, yeah, and it gives you trust in your path, trust in your, and a way to move forwards.
Yeah, and as a practitioner, being in contact with people, going through this, you should radiate trust, because that's what people can attune to that.
Trust in your own path.
Yeah. If I'm the practitioner to treat somebody who is in difficulties with this first Po, I know that there must be trust in. I should show not confidence, but I should give them trust for themselves, in themselves, and they should count on me. They should be able to count on me. The safe environment, and there's a possibility to find trust.
Okay. I think we're gonna have a break, but one question, because yeah, we're always interested in points, no, and liver 4, for instance, no, in your book, yeah, is set to balance Hun and Po, and it kind of works on that area, no, of CV3, 4, 5, 6. So is that a point you would use in that way for that first Po, or for these?
Yeah, definitely. I can maybe show you something else. Often it takes 5 minutes. Yeah. Often we start with the lung 3, which works on the Po, all the Po directly. So it calms the Po. So if the Po is very strong in trying to survive, then lung 3 really calms it down. Some people use lung 4 with it. Lung 4 relaxes and balances the pericard and the heart and the lungs. So often lung 3 and lung 4 together gives us this here.
So when you say calm the Po, like symptomatically, that means if somebody is too reactive to life,
Or harsh.
too harsh.
Harsh to himself, or very judgmental.
And how does it do that? Lung 3 is a window sky point.
Lung 3 is a window of sky point. I don't think I say more about it, but it is what it does. Lung 3 is related to this area. So lung 3 relaxes also the muscles of the neck, and it allows you to make contact from the cosmic chi to the breath, so that it revives the what happens when you are born. So the cosmic chi comes in contact with the Da chi, so the breathing becomes easier. This whole area can relax, and with lung 4, this area also can relax. So it gives an opening, and as I said, it gives an enlivening effect. It's a reactivating that part what you do when you are born. Yeah.
So there's this. It brings you in contact with your Shen again.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's what it does.
And that first aspect that we talked about, that the Shen kind of your
That's what
Shen, your earth, and from that the lung can open up.
Yeah.
again.
And then they always talk about how do you combine liver 4, but there are more points. You can combine it with, for instance, gallbladder 40. Gallbladder 40 is when there is difficulties from the interior and exterior. So if there's a lot of fight against the world.
So we're talking about lung 3 now, lung 3 plus gallbladder 40.
Plus gallbladder 40.
Right.
When you do that, that is possible, but there must be irregularities in the gallbladder and liver often. If they are not, then there is no use to do it. So it goes always together with post diagnosis. Gallbladder 40 is alternative to liver 3. It calms the liver, it calms the gallbladder, and it helps the the in and out movement of, or the difficulties, the oppositions, which is metal, yeah? As we discussed, the great movement metal, but gallbladder 40 with lung 3 has an effect on that. And with liver 4, it's again very different, because liver 4 in itself releases the contraction in the lungs, what lung 4 does as well. It also releases that area, yeah? But here it also brings up the liver, helps the Hun, but it clears stagnant energy in that lower jaw area where we spoke about REN 3, 4, 5, 6. So when you see that that is the origin of the PO problem, then you do lung 3 with liver 4, for instance.
So there are two different, so if you combine it with gallbladder 40, that's more like a routing effect. So you open, you kind of create that opening of the Shen in the earth and with lung 3, and then you kind of create a root with gallbladder 40.
Not only a root, but you know that that area of CV 3, 4, 5, 6 is okay, but there is stagnation between outside inside. There's chaos between outside inside. There's a temperature difference between outside inside. Then you can add gallbladder 40. And don't do liver 4 then. It has no use.
Right.
But if there is something going on in the lower jaw, you do liver 4 first.
Right.
And then the next treatment, gallbladder 40. But
Okay.
there's also, for instance, gallbladder 41. If all the energy stays up and people are really tightened up and they have a bad temper and they're angry and they don't know what to do anymore and they are confused and things like that, then gallbladder 41 calms it down, and then lung 3 you combine with gallbladder 41, it brings it down and it calms down then. And it has nothing to do with the outside world so much, but much more with the inside world, where you're so much confused from all the emotions. Then you calm down that with gallbladder 41. But again, you must be able to find it in the pulse, not from symptoms only.
Okay. Yeah, let's go on. I just need to read one question that might be good to talk about now. Yeah, let us take a break first, and
Okay.
then so it's 7 past now. So should we say quarter past? Is that
Yeah,
enough?
that's enough. Yeah.
Okay, let's
Over
take
that.
come back at quarter
You
past.
pause the recording then? Yeah.
Okay, so we're back. Good.
There's something I would like to share first. We're talking a lot about the PO. The great movements, they are describing what's happening on Earth. That's the great movement, and stems, they describe the Earth. But the great movement is the dynamic part of the stems. And the dynamic part is also related to the Wu Shen. Therefore, when I talk about the Po, it's part of that great movement metal. It's how it is expressed in ourselves, not only in deep energy metal or element of phase metal, but it is also how that blueprint of the unity is divided and how it is brought into ourselves in contact with the body and the spirit.
Okay. Okay. So we saw that the first Po, yeah, it really kind of opens up the beginning of life, or in the lower dantian, it kind of mirrors that, and then it creates a center or the earth in us, which enables us to look at ourselves, no, which enables us to go into ourselves, and so yeah, what is the second pole then?
The second pole is related to wood. So it makes contact with the east. So from that center, it goes to the east, and the east is seen as a life-giving force. It's where the sun rises. This is the so the pole went down to the lower jiao area, making contact with the sanjiao or yuan qi, with the heavenly emperor inside yourself, etc. Until it brought it the possibility to spread it all over. And if that doesn't work well, you can create worry, pensiveness, things like that. So the second pole is related to the east, and therefore also with the liver and also with the hun. So it makes contact with the hun. And it says human development in relationship based on Jing and Po. You can read it here. And so Jing and Po, that, or you could say Jing Po, yeah, together they that's the basis. And human development is through the wood. We will see with the great movement wood later that it guides the path of life. So the will to live is from the Zi, but how we do that, the plans we make, the expectations we have, that's all related to Hun and to the wood. There you see that kidney 21 plays a very important role, and I would spend some time, not too long, otherwise we can't finish it. It's a quite important point. It's close to CV14, which is the move point of the heart, and stomach 19, that's more the postnatal expression of kidney 21. It is, what can you digest? Can you digest it? Is there enough to digest it? Or do you vomit it because it's blocked? So this point, kidney 21 is the source, the essence relationship of something very important. And I'll show you some slides. If I can find it somewhere here, this is kidney 21, a reunion with Chongmai, exit point of Chongmai, then it goes up to these points up. Meeting of Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang is always...
Sorry, Jon, we don't see... Oh, no, you're not showing that slide with a point.
Okay, I'll show you. It's good you mentioned that. This is the one. Now you see it?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so it's the meeting point of Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang is always the meeting between Yang and Yin. Yeah, so there's heaven and earth, but there's also outside, inside. And the spirit enters from the front at kidney 21. That there are several points where the spirit actually enters the body, not only governor 20. So from the front, it enters through kidney 21. It's a hidden gate, yeah? But it also enters the body through CV12. We discussed that, yeah? We discussed the movement of CV12 to the intestines and to the lungs, and also from that area to CV3 to 6. So that is the entering. But it also, that area of the between governor 6, CV17, CV22, and governor 14, that area is also where it enters the body. Then in the lower Dantian, it enters it through CV4. That is part related to the Yuan Qi and the Jing Qi. Yeah, that is the constitutional strength and vitality given to you through your ancestors. Yeah. Then there is this governor. Sorry, this is not what I want to show you.
Jon, just one moment. When you say the spirit enters at these points for kidney 21 or the area, so you're talking as a spirit is what, like a very subtle undivided energy, and what is the energetic of that area so the spirit can enter there? Is that why does it enter in these points? And
that's a very interesting question, and I'm very happy you asked me that, because the spirit is not only the Shen as we know it from the heart. The spirit shows itself through the Hun. It shows itself through the Po. It shows itself through the Yi. It shows itself through the Zhi and to the heart Shen. So when we talk about kidney 21, it is the relationship of Hun and Po which enter there. That's the second Po and one of the aspects of Hun. But that's an expression of the original spirit entering it as Hun. or as Po. Yeah. So
Right.
it means,
So we see the manifestation of the original spirit, which is like something very subtle, something very unlimited in
yes,
a way, and it becomes limited in that area, and
yes,
it expresses itself through something more dense, yeah, which is the Hun and the Po, like a concept, which is the Hun and the Po.
it shows itself through the Po in the body, like a very physical energy related to the Jing, and it shows itself through a more etheric kind of energy, which is the Hun. But in kidney 21, they come together. Yeah, so they come together in that point, and from there it helps every human development. All the human development starts from that point. So it's
But
very,
that point has a wood energy as opposed to Ren 12, which is also a point where spirit enters, but that has more an earth quality.
that's more on earth, but it helps all the yang. It's the
Right.
food. It's the food point. Yeah.
And
So it's
then
also
Ren 4 area has more like a water quality, or
it's the more Jing Yuan Qi quality. So it gives more foundation, it helps the Po to anchor. The CV12 area needs to be calmed down because from there the energy goes to the lower jiao area. And then a bit up you have this kidney 21 area, which is in hidden gate where the Chongmai goes to these special points Jeffrey Yuen describes so very well. Yeah. And but this is the point where you also make contact with the inside with the Po. Yeah. So kidney 21 is a point which is related to the Hun. And when it's no longer nourished by virtue, social virtue, spiritual virtue, uh, any virtue you can think of, then the Po becomes too physical. And then there is a lot of resistance because this Po needs a free flow of Qi. If there's no free flow of Hun, there is a stagnated Hun or disturbed Hun, then people focus much more on the material world than on the more subtle world. And that is where anger and irritability, etc., comes from, because you irritate usually from your own behavior to the world or the world to you, or there's a lot of resentment and these kind of things because you're not in tune with yourself and with your own virtues. You want something from life. You want something to have something to done, or so that kind of anger that is very often originated in traumas, but also blockages in your own human development. Any human, emotional, physically, mental, spiritually, there was a blockage, and you were not able to come in tune with that. And that leads them, when that is affected, that immediately creates irritability or even worse. And then you start to blame others that it happens to you. Yeah.
so we said the first Po is really, it creates or it works on these emotions of worry and so forth by teaching you to kind of look inside, yeah, and not looking at the problems outside. And the second one, which is related to wood, is also not understanding your path and the willpower you use for that, or
Yeah, partly, but Catherine, can you close your mic, please? So
because what are we angry about or irritable about?
yeah, it is mostly because you don't perceive the world as it is. You perceive the world through your scars, through your emotions, through your wantings, through your expectations, etc. And it resists every change. So you can't change. You want it as you want, but the resistance comes from that the Hun is not involved so much. The Hun is much more flexible, is much more ethereal.
Right.
So it means that also the sense organs become harsher. They can then you can't hear properly, or especially the visual thing is disturbed. Your eyes are disturbed. Eye problems often goes together with this, and you don't have the how do you call it? So they focus too much on the outside world, and they say we blame the outside world, but they don't face themselves. That was the word I'm looking for. They don't face themselves. They blame others always. That means that there is a Hun liver, kidney 21 issue, and often also heart and the stomach problem, because he can't digest the world. Like stomach 19 has a lot to do with digesting food, and CV14 at heart point is also digesting the world as it is. And so it comes together with lots of other issues like pericard, heart, etc., etc. But what you see is that there is especially a projection to the world, which is to blame that there are so many problems, and they need to face themselves. And you should start with treating the sense organs and treating that people become calmer. And before you do kidney 21, they must be able to perceive the world in a different way, and that you do by kindness and gentleness, and you don't force them into that, otherwise you will be blamed as well. Then there's need for gentleness and kindness in that sense.
So if you can kind of give us some treatment examples like you did with the first PO, and you said, okay, we need to kind of move the energy of the lower jaw, or make at least a connection to that, and then open our connection to heaven again.
Yeah.
And here you say you have to open up the sense orifices, but and you said that often we see the world not as it is because of trauma, no, or because of scars that we have, or misconceptions that we have, no. So so opening the sense orifices, what do you mean with that? I mean,
yeah, well, first of all, we need to understand that we need to understand in our patients that a certain part of human development is affected when people are always blaming other people. Then something inside you or in that person is damaged, is no contact with. And you need to find out, is it emotional, is it mental, is it usually not spiritual, but it can be, is it physical? And the more physical it is, the more you work on Po and Jing. The more emotional it is, you work more on blood and the relationship of blood and Qi. And the mental it is, you come back to earth, but also metal. Metal that we are able to discriminate is also a way we think. Thinking itself is very often discriminating. This is like this is like that. That also has to do with metal. So you have to find out, where is the blockage? Do they defend themselves with the pericard, so the heart is not affected? Do they defend themselves through Taiyang or through the lungs, the Wei Qi? Is the Wei Qi very active? So you need to find, where is the problem, and how do they defend themselves? What are the survival mechanisms? That is anger. That's the irritability. So you can treat the survival mechanism, but it doesn't make sense. So you need to find, there was something wrong in a certain development. You can't start with kidney 21. You can start with CV14 sometimes, but you need to find what is the background of blaming others. And often that is something that happened in one of these areas of body, mind, emotions, etc., and then make contact it. So when you work on an emotional level, you need to work through the Po, for instance, and earth, or Po and heart, or Po and name it. If it is mental, you work more on the metal and the earth and fire. Yeah. If it is physical, you work mainly on Jing and Po and earth as the flesh.
Okay. From how you described the first kind of two Po, and how does narcissism fit into that? Is that like a Hun Po problem?
Well, usually it's in this one.
Okay, so we'll come to that.
Yeah, we come to that. Narcissism, maybe it's quickly give an answer. Narcissism starts from the fear for big emptiness inside yourself. You don't face the emptiness and the fear which goes together with that. So you project everything outside, bad or good. People can be mad to you, people can be kind to you, whatever, as long as people confirm your existence, because you're too afraid of that deep abyss inside yourself. Yeah.
Right.
So let's go to this is the real metal pole. This is very important. This is CV17 area. So we went from the lower jiao to somewhere in the middle jiao, which is the kidney 21 area, and the CV14, that area. Now we go to the C17, which is the upper jiao area, the chest area. And this is how the chi through this pole is animates the body and the expression of that body into the world through the Shen. So here the Po and Shen help each other. Yeah, so that people are able to radiate through the eyes, through their face, through their color, their expression, their hair, the way they describe the world, the way they communicate with the world goes together with this Po. This is a very important, I don't want to explain CV17. I hope you all have knowledge about that. Important here is that this Po interconnects the Po with the outside skin, the lungs, the house of the Po, the kidneys, the house of the Jing. So this really brings all these aspects of all the Po together in one. So if this Po doesn't work, if there is a problem with this Po, which means that the Shen and the body can't express themselves, they're not able to express themselves. That can come through insomnia, but it can also come through how people are brought up. It can come through, it can come sometimes through grief and trauma. Often shame is involved because shame affects the Hun and Po, both. But what you see is a stagnation around the diaphragm. So they are not able to breathe freely with the diaphragm. So there's a very, what do you call it, upper breathing through the thorax only. Yeah. And they are not able to root it in the Jing. So the Jing is not grasping the Po or the lungs. There is a lot of shame and guilt and disappointment and these kind of things, which are origin and effect. They work together. Yeah. So it's very possible that this Po is affected by disappointment or shame, but it also leads to disappointment and shame. And so it's very important here to activate the diaphragm first, to be able to breathe calmly there. And there are certain tricks to do that. Before you start working with this Po or you do Moxa on CV17, it's important that the diaphragm is not stagnated anymore. There are two things to say about it. When you lie on your back and you turn and you bend your knees and you bring both knees to one side so that your pelvic area is diagonal and your shoulders are still lying on the couch. So the pelvic area is like this and the shoulders are like that. Lying like that helps the diaphragm to move. So when it is stagnated or there's no movement possible, you can just lie down like that and you will see that people start breathing with the diaphragm. And another thing is that kidney 16, which balances the 3 jiao, and you see that we went through these 3 jiao from CV3-6 area to the kidney 21, CV14 area to CV17. With kidney 16, you calm these 3 Po, you allow the 3 Po to communicate with each other. And so you should take time, just kidney 16, and again, only when you see that in the pulse, not just by because I say so, but you need to feel the pulse before you do that. And what you could easily see especially when this Po is affected, is a shortness of breath. You see skin issues, you see sometimes kidney issues, but also lower back problems. But also you can use points related to the pole. We maybe discuss that later, which points that are. But like lung 7, maybe we should say something about lung 7. Lung 7 is a point which releases emotions. It releases toxins. And again, and I won't say it again, post-diagnosis first, but lung 7 releases that energy of it purifies the emotions. So when you do that together with kidney 16, for instance, then they can calm down diaphragm, they can calm down the toxins, and they will probably start to talk about where the guilt came from or what they're ashamed of. There's not many to say. They will talk easily then when the breathing starts.
Okay, so so that's the third pole. Yeah, is how the Shen expresses itself into society, into the world.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And just as a quick one, no, because what is the importance of there being a sequence? Like we go through 1, 2, 3, and we describe, but do you have to treat 1 and 2 first to get to 3, or?
Yeah, that's something I tried to work out myself for a long time to see what is the sequence important. Yes and no. There is a cooperation between the 7 pole. First of all, they're all active at the same moment. The first and the 7 and everything in between is active in us now, but it helps you to understand development from the, let's say, the oneness to the 10,000 things.
Mm.
And how the great movement of metal is so important in working with this is very important before you start working with lots of other diseases. Because when one of these poles is really affected, of course, all of them are affected a bit in us. We're not emotionally easy. We have difficulties with a lot of emotions. But if more or less it works normal, then it's much easier to work with patients like Guest-Hose law, like unlike Qi, and all these things, blood and Qi. So sometimes you see that this sequence is important but it also helps you in your own spiritual development. You start often with the first pole, then the second pole, and then the third pole in your own spiritual development. So yes, they work together all the time, but you will see the further we come in the 7th pole, the more you see that these instinctive powers become abilities because it's related to love. Already in the beginning, you saw the CV3 as the emperor and your ancestors, and with the Hun, which is related to Shen, and here you see is CV17, which is opening. CV17, maybe say a few words still, is a point which combines the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So you have done the lower jiao, middle jiao, now you come here. How does the world is perceived and how do you act to the world with your vertical axis? Yeah?
Right.
So when you're born, you start with the lower jiao, the first years of your life, and then you become social, kidney 21 area, and then you start to understand that you're a separate being in the whole world on your own, and then you have your vertical axis through the first 3 pole. That's also in spiritual development is very important. Yeah, and then you come to the 4th one, which is something which we were talking about when we spoke about the narcissism. Shall we go into this one?
Yeah, please.
Now you go back to water again. It is posterior of the navel. The navel CV8 is called the what's the name? The House of the Spirit, something like that. It is where you connect the heart. The CV8 is often seen as Jing Qi or Yuan Qi or whatever, but it's a point where you can have contact with the spirit or the heart, Shen, and it's a very important point, but it is within the water. It's in the lower jiao, and the area of the lower jiao. So your physical development basis of other levels of development. So it starts here with it's very physical. Here you have contact with the body as such. It's a Jing Po, but dynamic. The moment this is stagnated, the water is stagnated, then there is fear, there is loneliness, there is insecurity. So it means that there is, in fear, there is a secret beyond fear. Fear, we don't allow ourselves to be fearful, as we don't allow us to be angry or anything, but fear even more. We immediately project that outside with our wishes and desires, etc., and then it becomes stagnated, it becomes cold. You find a cold water energy. And so fear itself is the cover of love. Love is beyond the level of fear, and not love as I love you, but a love for life, the love of life, the will for life. So what we discussed with the kidney area, grasping the chi of the lungs, which is the cosmic chi and rooted in the kidney, that is the area where love resides. The heart expresses that, but the love is inside your area of water. And love in sense of that it sustains life. Life and love is actually the same, that we are able to be as we are, that we are authentic, but also when we wound ourselves, that it becomes a scar, that it is healed from inside, from that water level. But the fear is covering that. We don't like to look at that because that love is an area which seems a cavity, an abyss, because it's limitless. It's open. It is space itself. It is we don't like to look at that because there is also love for things you don't like. There's love for everybody. There's love for people you hate. There's etc. etc. There's love for life without personal judgment. Love for life. That area that is also what gives the resilience of people and the strength of people. But to look in that and to be able to feel and see that love for life, for everything, that you're not better than another or the other is not better than you, that is unperceivable for lots of ourselves. That's very difficult to understand because we all have a kind of judgmental nature in that sense. That love starts with the body. The Jing is the most dense energy we have. And in that Jing, there is also love. It becomes more personal through Chongmai, through spleen 4. There, this love becomes personal and it can help you with your own digestion and so on. But the origin is the intelligence of life. But when you're afraid to look at that, that is narcissism. Then you want constant confirmation of the world because you don't get it from inside, because inside is dangerous. And maybe you know there is something, but you need it from outside. And even if there's no confirmation through love, you want it through hate. That still confirms. That is the root of narcissism. Yeah. So this is yeah.
So from what you described, and that means that this fourth pole, again, I think we mentioned it before, has a lot to do with a certain acceptance of your life, of your Jing that you've been given.
But especially physical. It starts physical.
Yeah, but
emotions are physical, but this emotion is the most physical one. It means also in treatment, you should always give massage or any body work or qigong or tai chi or anything which is physical to the body, which comes and releases the coldness of fear or the coldness of loneliness that you need
Mhm.
Body acupuncture won't help here.
Okay. And
One second.
mm,
This is where we started. You remember the Tao that can be conceptualized is not the pristine Tao, but there's here, though these two seem different, the undivided and the divided. Though these two seem different, they mirror each other. The common thread is very obscure. It is darkness that is darker than darkness, called the gate of inexhaustible potential. So the body is the mirror of the highest principle. CV3 is the emperor, is the mirror of the heavenly emperor inside yourself. But it is dark, darker than dark. And therefore, you are afraid of it. But there is the inexhaustible potential. That's love. Yeah. So this is a very mystical one. And the only thing I can advise you is work with your hands, work with moxa, work with Tai Chi and Qigong.
okay. Right. So that to discover that mystery of life, yeah, which has a lot to do with emptiness, it goes through the body.
It goes through the body,
Yeah.
definitely.
So the to be in touch with our body, that's very important. Yeah, and often we don't go there, and then we'll not discover this inexhaustible source of life and love.
Yeah, especially because also that's why I am strongly for supervisors, for all therapists, because I think we all in our life come in contact with fear, loneliness, and insecurity.
Mm,
When we don't solve it, but when we don't find the truth of it, what's beyond that, then when people come to you, also fear and loneliness, there's a lot of projection and transference in the therapy. And
mm.
it's easily that also that people want you to touch you or the other way around, and then you get a lot of misunderstandings because you didn't solve this in yourself first. This is a really important thing. You will see that a lot of people are caught by it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Jon, I'm also just looking at the time. We have got 10 minutes. I'm sure we can go over that a little bit. But
Yeah. We go to the fifth.
if we go through one more, the fire aspect, and then maybe there's two questions that I think for people that's quite important
Yeah.
to work with. And then the other two PO is maybe we'll have to do that another time.
That's possible. These are also the most difficult ones.
They are difficult anyway. So
Yeah, we go through the 5 phases as you see, and the last 2 ones are Yang and Yin.
right.
But this is the fire one. So we went from the earth to the metal, sorry, in the earth to wood, to metal, back to water, and now we go up. So now the vertical axis is restored through.
So we kind of it's this creation of life. No, we have a center and we want to express that self in the center into the world. And now we go back to the origin of life in the lower dantian.
Yes, and
With
true.
full.
But now we go to the phase fire. So we
Right.
went from wood, metal to water. That was the 4th one, and the 5th one is that you're in contact with fire, the phase fire. The point itself is interior of Ming Men, Governor 4. Governor 4 is also like CV4, like CV12, like CV22, are points where Yin and Yang merge. That's also Governor 4. And this you see often in all people that this is disturbed.
In old people or in old people?
Old age people.
Right.
That's very often you see that these people are easily excited, they are more nervous, fear of being taken advantage of. You see often that this PO, because the life Ming Men is reducing the energy, the fire of Ming Men is reducing. So you see that this easily get affected by it. And it has to do with sensitivity. The 7 openings during old age start to close down one by one, sometimes all together, but they start to close down. So the 7 openings, they don't process all the information to the Shen. So the Shen is receding, the Jing is receding, but this is also a chance. This is also a chance. So the fire and Shen need the Po and the Jing. That's this Po, which is in the area of Ming Men, that the fire of people need that energy of Governor 4 to be able to function well. That's also the heart and small intestine, Sanjiao, pericardium, etc., etc. And it is normal for older people to get nervous or easily excited or these things I described. But if you have it at a younger age, you know something is wrong with the foundation of the fire, which is the Po and the Jing physically, from the Po perspective. So fire in this sense is also the consciousness of thought. Yeah, so the thinking itself is based on this Po. So that we think and we make concepts and that we are aware of time in the future and the past and in the now, that is all related to this Po. Yeah. And so the thinking that we are able to learn through thinking is related to this Po, that we are that active, that we can focus on that. That is definitely related to this Po. And when we get older, we don't think that quickly anymore because the fire is less strong and we forget things and we're insecure that we think people will use us and things like that. That comes from that we can't think that easily anymore. Our fire there is reducing. The brains is Jing and fire, is heart and fire. Sorry, Jing and heart. So when you have that at a younger age, that you're always nervous and always excited or always fear for being minor to other people and things like that, then, and you say, oh, I'm so sensitive, I'm highly sensitive, that usually starts from a damaged relationship between the Shen and the Po and the Jing. There are lots of possible treatments for that, but it starts with descending the Qi into the Jing instead of going up. So it is descending the Qi, again with gentleness, not with force. And allow people to experience the body instead of their thinking. You ask them a question that they will, for instance, if you ask me, how do you feel? I say, well, I think today I'm not so well, or something like that. So they forget about thinking. How do you feel? Just touch the body, say, okay, what do you feel here? Can you feel my hand? Can you feel your tummy? Can you feel your back? When you sit, can you feel the support of a chair? So that you root yourself in the body and that you can help with points that descend the energy to the Jing and the Po, because the fire needs that physical energy. It starts there.
Jon, to bring it back to when you said the Po, when we kind of understand the Po, we can work with them and we work with ourselves rather than they control us, or they're like little devils, as you said. So when we talk about this fire aspect, and I remember from your book, you say fire, because we need fire in the body, to really animate kind of the water, to warm the water here. And when we say there's overexcitement, there's anxiety, but you also talk with fire about sacrifice, and my question is, so with this Po, what is there to understand that guides us to work with this Po rather than be controlled by this Po and get this exhaustion of fire?
Yeah, this has to do with there's a certain like in Confucius' time, they describe the way you should act. Like there has lots of propriety. They use it also. The word propriety says that, and also the way you should behave and things like that. Mencius himself, he said always there's a seed of goodness. You know these things inside yourself, and when you feel this excitement or nervousness, it has to do with going inside and finding this truth inside yourself instead of somewhere outside yourself. I have it here. I've opened it up because I knew it would come. If a man loves others and no responsive attachment is shown to him, let him turn inwards and examine his own benevolence. If he's trying to rule others and his government is unsuccessful, let him turn inwards and examine his wisdom. If he treats others politely and they do not return his politeness, let him turn inwards and examine his own feeling of respect. So this pole teaches us through resistance not to stay in that communication and to blame others or say,
So not to bring that fire up and out.
Exactly. To bring it inside and say, okay, I blame others that they are not polite. Okay, how is it with my politeness? So propriety is not something which is to others. It is natural from inside. Am I able to naturally meet people with grace or with wisdom and so on? To find that development inside yourself is the how do you call it? The treasure of this poem.
Yeah. Right. Maybe we can bring that, because there was one question, and it seems like a point that is really suitable for that. Kidney 5, you said, yeah, is to when the energy, or the kidney energy especially, expresses itself too much up and out, then you would consider using kidney 5. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And how the question was then, like, practically, how do you use it? Like, question was, do you push pull with it? But kidney 5 would be a point to work on the pull.
That could be work on this concept of
Right.
this part of pull. Kidney 5 definitely could be.
Because what was the question? Because it's a she cleft point.
Yeah.
And what was it?
Let me say something about push and pull and this concept of understanding the mystery of the pull as a blueprint for self-development, is that you don't intrude so much in the energy of others. You allow them to do that themselves. The more you direct that energy with force, like push-pull, for instance, the less choice people have to do that. So you are mastering the energy of another person. Sometimes that's needed, but just needling the point itself on one side, left or right, is often enough to, but it depends on the sequence, on if the body is ready to listen to your message. But the more you focus on that, the only thing maybe is important, that the needle technique is not so much the push-pull, but if you vibrate the needle, you are more on a deeper level. If you just put it more superficial and just allow it to be there, you ask the body to heal it on the level of the more superficial layers of the channel system. So I present myself more like, okay, this is my message, take it or leave it. But I'm the one who decides when and how I do that. But when you do push-pull, it's you intrude in the energy, you do something with the person, and you say, what's going on? I do that when people are in pain, when there's need to push-pull, to really move the energy. But on this subtle level, it's better to prepare before you do kidney 5 that they are able to receive that message.
Okay. Okay. Good. We're almost, no, we're already past, but there's two questions I would like to ask. Maybe you can just quickly answer them with everything we've done before. That relationship to the pole and the phases of the moon and growth and decline, what is that about? And yeah, how can we use it?
First of all, the moon reflects the light of the sun.
Right.
Like the pole reflects ourselves. Yeah, the pole is a mirror. Metal is a mirror. It can reflect to ourselves, but it is you can easily change there. Emotions change from one day, hour, minute to the other emotion. So it shows the development as well as the always how do you call it, present change in our life. So metal is the interaction between outside, inside, up and down. It said all these things we said, but it changes every minute.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a sequence of change, often like the moon phases. So the bright light of the sun, the source of light, is reflected through the moon to us. So the bright side of metal you can use as sunlight to protect yourself or to reflect yourself in. But it's not the same always. It changes. It's not the same as the sunlight. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, sometimes dark.
Okay. Okay. Right. One last question, and that really, really is short because I know it's a long topic, but maybe there's always this, yeah, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding, but emotions and the seven po, and what's the difference to Gui?
That's a good question. Give me 3 minutes. I'll try to explain it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The po are always there. Po are related to the earth. They stay with the earth. They have a center. They have a purpose. They are part of the Shen. They are part of. There's an integral part of your whole body. The Gui have no center. They are empty. They stay here on earth because they are hungry or they are wandering or whatever. There are certain ways they try to go to a certain person because they want to attach to something.
They're empty of what, Johan?
They don't have that center. They are autonomous and they
Right.
don't adapt, but they are no capabilities anymore to adapt. They just want something.
Right.
There's no identity in it like we have in ourselves. There's no integral part. Like the Po is part of Hun, of Shen, they all communicate with each other. Like the 7 Po relate to the 5 phases, and the 7 Po work together, and the 7 phases in Yin and Yang. Like the 3 Hun, they have 3 levels. With the Gui, they are separate unities. They work. They're autonomous. They do things with you, but they are empty. But important, they attach to something they recognize because they don't have that center. So when a Gui is angry or is sad or is hungry or is sexual, it goes to a person who is angry, sad, or sexual, whatever. So in the past, they treated Gui often, and nowadays more and more. But it is more important to understand that when a person is angry, that has to do with the second pole and all the things we said about the second pole, and treat that, and then that Gui will release because it doesn't recognize anymore. He needs that power of anger to give him, her, whatever, a center.
Right.
So you can take it out, but you don't know what you take out. You can take out a lot more than only the Gui. A part of that pole, that second pole, can also go out, and then you have more trouble afterwards. So it's better to build up all the things we said about the second pole, if there's anger, and to release that anger or to change and transform that anger from inside in relationship with the 4 other Shen, and then that Gui has no purpose anymore because it can't live there anymore, and then it needs to go out because it is empty and needs anger.
So same treatment principle like we used before. No, we should look inside of us or the patient. Yeah, what is actually given that opening for something to manifest and work on that inside of us.
Yeah.
And in that way release like a ghost.
It will release because it needs that center of you which is angry. And if the anger is gone because all the things we have said before, then the gray needs to go because it can't live without that anger.
Okay. Great. Exactly 3 minutes, Johan. Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, I think we will kind of come to a close. I hope we managed to, though we didn't address the questions like per se, but I hope we kind of gave the background that you can find the answers to the questions you send us. Thank you, Johan. Hope it wasn't too exhausting for you being ill, and thank you everybody for being here. And I hope to see you, or we hope to see you next time again.
That will be probably in September, beginning of September, hopefully. We didn't discuss that yet, but we will send you an email and then you can register again. Thank you for all the attention and being here.
Can I add something? Because usually the questions are sent to me, which is good. And if you think your question isn't answered, or if you like to know more about what just is discussed,